What's up, everyone? Welcome to another sensational episode of the Curious K podcast. My name is Kolapo, and I'm your host. And if you're joining us for the first time, the Curious K podcast is a show where I meet with amazing startup founders, ecosystem builders, and everyone working to make entrepreneurship thrive. And this is the 31st episode of the podcast. And I'm very, very excited about this episode. As you know, I'm always excited about all the episode on the show. And this episode features Gbolade Emmanuel, who is the CEO of Termii, a company headquartered in California, and a YC alumni. He's also an angel investor. And I'll just talk briefly about Termii. It's a communication platform that allows African businesses send messages to anyone across SMS, email, voice, and instant messaging. Thank you very much, Gbolade Emmanuel, for joining us today on Curious K podcast.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Absolutely. So how are you doing today? How's it going?
Yeah, I'm doing fine. A lot of work, but yeah, it's going. We're pushing it. It's going well.
Yeah. I like that. I mean, we have to keep pushing. All right, Emmanuel. So can you just give us a background? Give us like a sneak peek into your educational background?
Okay, so I started out in. So I'm not a typical tech guy, anyways. I started out in urban and regional planning in the University of Lagos. Um, Basically, I majored more in design, right? So um, I did more of urban design, basically, as opposed to the general planning practice, basically, right? So I did that for some time, and then I ventured into um, basically digital marketing. Let me put it like that. So I basically I was doing consulting for different companies and startups. That was from school till I left school, right? So I did the consulting for quite a while. Personally, then I started with a couple of people and did consulting um, in that particular vehicle, right? So let me just say that was like early years of Termite. Let me put it like that in the making, basically. So
Okay.
I did a couple of consulting then under that kind of vehicle, basically. Um, I would say the things didn't go as planned, right? During that period, because basically I was consulting and I was also learning at the same time, right? So it was like a learning curve. It was my first time into tech, so it's not like I had much experience, right? So we're just winging it basically and trying to serve different customers and things like that, right? And I think down at the line, I had to quit that basically, right? It wasn't really working. I don't think I've mentioned this in other places before, but it wasn't really working. Anyways, right? But I did a couple of courses for several companies, right? Um, it was more like you doing maybe web development, social media content and stuff like that, basically, right? So learning about the whole space. I eventually, during the space of that, I worked as COO for, CTO for a retail company. I was managing the tech team at that time. That was like my first major experience, like job experience, right? So at that time, I'd learned how to code and all of that. So I was hired because of my skills at that time, right, through a friend for this retail company. The company is no longer functioning, but at that time they were like a very hot deal. I think they were doing stuff around. It was the e-commerce era, right? So they were doing stuff
Okay.
around sales of female shoes. So they were everywhere, banners everywhere, stuff. So the company was really a hot thing, but it was just not my thing, right? The company was doing fine at that time before I left, but it was really not my thing at that point, right? So I had to leave and continue my consulting practice at that time. I think I went back to school sometimes in 2017 or 18. I did a course at that's EDC at Lagos Business School, right? So in a what you call entrepreneurship, right? So and
Okay.
yeah, yeah, that went well. And after then, I think I came back again to the tech space, trying to see what could work out, right? But I remember some of the experiences I had while I was consulting. with a bunch of companies, and I remember that many of them had problems, engaging customers, right? And it was a very big problem. They were spending thousands of dollars, right, just trying to connect with customers, paying different platforms, and it was just not working, right? Some wanted to verify these customers, but it wasn't really working. So emails was what people were using at that time. And for an average African, right, really emails, people don't really check their emails until after some few days, basically, right? And sometimes mails even end up in spam. So it's not really effective. Or if you're using Gmail, it ends up in promotions where you have tons of promotions swarming that particular message, right? So it wasn't really effective, right? And I thought, okay, why not build this thing? And so my current CTO, who is also my co-founder now, at that time we worked on several projects while I was doing that consulting practice, right? So we worked on a lot of projects together, and so I called him up that, see, I'm starting this whole um, um, you know, entrepreneurship thing again, and can you join me this time around? Let's make this stuff work. Let's build something around this communication space and see how it works. So then I was still really bootstrapping at that time, right? So it wasn't really, we had not started anything major. So it was still development and all of that, right? And so I met Accountia. I met the founder, that's Merlin, in Morocco. So I went to Morocco for a particular program, and I met him, and we talked about the whole his plans in Africa, that's in Africa and Nigeria in specific. And so I came on board. He told me that he would like me to have on board. Although he knew I was working on something side, but it was like just needed me to come on board and and work with him. So I came on board account here and did a couple of work with him for a while before I moved back to my company and focused fully on it. Yeah.
All right, amazing. Yeah, so while you were still at Accountia, you were
Yeah.
building Termii on the side.
Uh,
That was like, because you've already identified the problem there. What did you experience the same issue while you were with Accountia?
yeah, exactly right. And that's even one of the things that just made me know that, well, I think I need to really focus on this, right? So because it was still an obvious thing, right? We needed to basically use messaging to, verify customers or transaction basically. But it wouldn't necessarily be a heavy part. At Accountia, one of the things that interested me was really on their model of the fintech thing, right? So I wanted to really learn about the fintech space, right? In fact, at Termii currently, our major customer base are financial service companies, right? So it launched me into the fintech space, right? So I kind of learned quite a number of things that I consider more in the fintech space and how it really works, right? How banks work, how financial service companies work, and all of that, right? So it was a learning curve for me at that time, basically, right? So my main job was just to, work with those people in the space, close deals and really help the team scale, at that particular time. And well, we did quite well for a company at that time, and but I basically had to just leave, right? So I Termite was something running, but it wasn't really I have not given 100% at that time. The way it works in Nigeria right now. You basically just hustling, you know, left and right, basically. So I would say Termite was a side gig at that time, right? For me really, right? Because I put more time at accounts here, at that particular point.
All right, great. So by the time you started Termii fully,
Mhm.
what was that process like? And were you able to like make some sales whilst you're running it as a side gig? Were you generating revenue? Because you mentioned you were bootstrapping. Or if you can just run us through like the journey of like getting your first customer on board, or were you able to leverage your relationship with Acantia to have them as your like the first user? If you can just share
Uh,
that story with us.
yeah, no. I can tell there was no real relationship, to be honest, right? So I can tell was purely. I can tell at that time we our focus was more with the banks. We were trying to really onboard banks at that time. So I was having several meetings and meetings. It was crazy, right? So I was always on the road, right, hitting the banks and everywhere. So we're really trying to scale the SME platform at that time. So it was not really the Termite thing. Termite was focused on something entirely different. So but I just got to the point. I was always on the road. It was exhausting, right? So, and there was a couple of challenges here and there, right? So, also personally, right? I was already I was about to even get married at that time, right? So there was just a bunch of things basically, and I just said, "Man, you know what? I think I need to, um, you know, just step back a bit and give myself a break because I was always on the road, like for like almost a whole year, right? Meetings. It was not funny at all. So I was like, I just need to step back a bit and focus, right? And so um, I think sometimes I took during that period I took some time to just try and focus a little bit on Termite, right, and see how things could be done, right. And late, I think this was in 2019 or so. So that period I focused on it. My co-founder basically was that's my CTO at that time. He was still working on the project on his own, right. So he was more focused, right, on the whole build and all of that. So we tried to pitch it to a couple of customers and companies and even investors, right, if it would make any traction, at that particular time. I don't think okay, I can say it was not really was not a customer. No. We didn't really do if they onboarded maybe some other time later, but I don't think they were fully onboarded on it, right? So the use case that we really had was for the pain point was more for financial service payment company at that time. They
Okay.
were the ones that really had that pain point. So our early customers at that time was the likes of Bankly. That time Bankly just started. Fonda also started at that time. So a couple of companies that started very early. ULesson too started at that time. I think those were like our very first contracts I was able to get. I got ULesson through a friend, and they were like very first customers that came on board at that time. At that time, the platform was very scrappy and crappy, right? It wasn't fully fleshed out, right? But I think Sim really wanted. So I think at ULesson they were having a problem with verifying their customers and also engaging them. And they were spending a lot of money on Twilio, right? It was quite a lot, and so there was no really African alternative. They had tried different platforms, which I don't need to mention names, but it wasn't just working. So Sim really wanted a solution. So it was okay. So it was Sim of ULesson, then um, Schoolable, Schoolable and Bankley, that's Tommy of Bankley, So I think
Okay.
those three companies were like our very first main core customers, and they were really having the same problem. So Sim was actually ready to work with me to find a solution for their own problem, right? So it means we're building specifically for their problem. So a lot
All
of things
right.
that you see in Termii was built specifically for this platform. So we really just scaled on top of these platforms. We learned their problem and we started optimizing to fit their problem, right? And save them a lot of money. And at that time, I think we're saving Schoolable a lot of money. We saved Sim a lot of money, and also we saved Tony or Bankley some money also there, right? So the platform scaled from there and on and on. And then I think we pitched it to, but before that time, before we were even able to close very well with these guys, we pitched it to Microtraction. So I met, I don't even know how I met Yele. I think I met Yele through. So I was very dedicated to CCC Hub at that time, right? So it means I
Okay.
attended every event at CC Hub. I did everything basically at CC Hub, right? So it was really, so I met, so there was a particular event we did at CC Hub at that time, and I met Yele there. So I met him in 2018, but I kept him in my contacts, right, for a while. I kept sending him mails and mails and mails about what I'm doing. I just kept giving him like investor updates, even if he had not
Update.
invested. All right. So then I think in 2019, he called me up for a meeting and we just spoke about it. So I don't think he invested in what we're building. He invested in what we could build because he was one telling me what we should build, right? So he came and said, right, that I like the hustle spirit and all of that. I know you guys are far behind what this platform could be, but he told me to actually check about a particular platform. I said that can you guys do this thing? Right? I said that's the direction we are going. He said, no problem. In fact, what he talked about is not even what we are doing currently, right? So you can see that the journey has changed. But he just
Yeah.
felt that this guy has the ability to build this thing, right? So I'm sure people out there will look at us and think, oh, Microtraction invested in Termii as it is right now. Termii is just a name, right? So that's really the disclaimer, right? So Termii is just is an idea, really. And Microtraction and Future Hub at that time just invested in that idea of Termii, right? And when I mean idea, I don't even mean the platform that you see right now. It's just that idea of making communication much more easier because these companies, Yele was telling me at that time that they had faced this kind of issue in places that he had been before, right? And he feels that a company should be able to solve this problem. So I was just telling them the future, that communication could be much more easy for businesses, and they can easily communicate with these guys, on like a single channeled messaging, two-way messaging, So I just gave him those pictures, and I was like, wow, that if I can really work on it. So I just used Termii as that umbrella to house that thing, right? So I was like, you know what, let me umbrella this idea on that Termii, right? And so I basically started the whole journey, basically, right? And the rest is history. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing story right there. Yeah, so when did you start exploring Y Combinator, or at what point did you get into YC?
So
Was it
so
like
that
your
was very
first
crazy.
application?
Yeah, that was actually very crazy, right? So it's sometimes people think things happen overnight, right? Things happen overnight, but
Mm,
really a lot of things are just preparation that just meets opportunity, right? So like I said, it's been a journey of a lot of failed attempts, right? A lot of things that did not work out and well. And so that whole microtraction thing was just um, preparation meeting opportunity, to be honest, right? Like I said, microtraction really did not invest. Yeah, I get the whole media out front, right? Of okay, we invested in these different articles, but to be honest, Dele and Dio just took a fly on me and my co-founder, right? So they just looked at us and were like, "These guys, that's yeah, these guys have been on a journey, try, that kind of thing." And like, you know what? Can you guys do this thing, right? That you're talking about? And we said, yes, we can really build it out. And they said, no problem, that we're going to invest, right? And so it was like not even, I think maybe like a month, right? Um, we were also speaking with Future Africa at that time, Future Hub, sorry, and Future Hub to so Future Hub's criteria really was that they were just coming in as a follow-on with microtraction. So they invested simultaneously as microtraction were investing. So we're pitching.
so how much was invested then? Can you share that?
Yeah, it was 30K. It was on the news, right? So 30K in
Okay.
total, the two of them, right? So I think we were pitching um Future. We were pitching microtraction, and we're also pitching Future Hub also at the same time. Future Hub, their only reason why they invested was that they they were investing with Transient Holdings, and so they wanted to enter the mobile space. They needed like a platform that enables B2B transactions, right, and can really utilize their platform. The Transient Holdings controls majority of the smartphones in Africa, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, so they were looking for platforms around that play, and we just so what we're pitching to them as an idea just made sense, and they were like, if we can build this out too, that they are willing to come on board. So both of them, they just took a fly on us at that time, and some days after or some weeks after Microtraction invested, Dio called me up of Microtraction. I was like, the YC application will soon finish. It's going to get exhausted. That they are going to close it basically and all of that. Should I? Am I not going to apply? I said, I was like, what exactly is Y Combinator? Because I really did not know about YC. So he explained to me. I was like, I'm like California, far away. That's okay. Let me see if we. So I was not even sure of the whole application, but I said, let me just even try. So I did it. They fine tuned it and we applied. And the funny thing, that they didn't even do any interview for us. So they usually do this video interview for people, but for us, we didn't do any interview. And they
You guys
called us
got in
straight.
straight.
Yeah, exactly.
Amazing.
And just called us straight to California that we should come and have a physical meeting with them. So there was no digital meeting, nothing, right? And by the time we got there, it was like back to back. So I think they just wanted, in fact, even YC too. I asked them that after the meeting with them, I asked them why exactly people want to invest. And they said they usually don't invest in CPaaS platforms in Africa because they've seen the trend that some of the companies don't really work out. They've been pitched many messaging platforms, right? But they just feel that we can make it work. That they just looked at us, and one of the partners said, these guys can make it work, right? And that's why they took a fly, basically. And that's all. And that was the end of that episode.
Amazing. Yeah. So, what was the journey like in YC? What was the experience? Was it because when you applied, that was the first time you heard about it. What were the expectations? Were they met? Can you just tell us about
To be
during
honest,
the YC program?
there was really no expectation. Like you can't have expectation of something that you don't even know what you're expecting. You
I
don't even know.
see.
You don't know anything about it. So we got there, and the the interview was intense, right? So it was like a reality check, right? Back to back. In fact, everything that we're having back to back to be to actually prove to you that the current platform that we have in Termii, right? The thing is that on the news, right, you only just see what people project to you. Like, oh, Termii, blah blah blah. Okay, they started in this. What you are seeing on our platform right now has nothing to do with what we started um, in 2017 or something, or wherever, where during my that's, consulting days and things that I was trying to do is purely completely different, right? Because during YC, they debunked everything, right? They were like, this thing cannot work, blah blah blah. We practically pivoted from everything, right? Um, from what we're basically doing, because YC encourages you to shut down and start again, right? So we just necessarily just shut down what we're doing, and just, it was like a hard reset at YC, and
Mm.
we started thinking about, okay, what exactly does people like you, let's say Bankley and the rest, what exactly is their pain point, right? Is it just a messaging platform, or is it a communications infrastructure? When you're saying infrastructure, you're talking about APIs and all of that. You're talking about some things complex, right? And it's a lot of infrastructure build, a lot of connecting to the telcos, operators, vendors, all those kind of things. Payments, how do you pay the telco? All those things is what, like, that's what these companies are interested in. It's not just an alternative route, whether SMS or email. So if you notice, we don't even pitch Termii as um, use SMS or email or WhatsApp. No, we don't pitch that, right? What we basically tell customers is that we've built an communication infrastructure that allows you to both verify, authenticate, and engage your customer, right? Basically, so it verifies their transactions, verifies their identity, authenticates it using messaging channels to verify all of these things, and then engage the customers after those verification has been done. And then we have three products: Switch, Token, and Insight. And but if you go to other platforms, you see that they are selling messaging channels. No, we don't do that, right? So our platform, so each of these products has a lot of APIs under them, and a lot of no-code tools or dashboard tools that allows you to do a bunch of things, right? Like, switching messages, generating tokens, validating customers, validating networks, all those things, right? That is what we basically. So it's a full communication stack that helps all these companies to really succeed, and that's what we really pitch, right? And during YC, that was really how we were able to flesh that out, right? The partners were amazing to help us out with that, and like YC always says, it's better you fail fast, so fail fast and move forward, right? Basically, so like I said, right, that was what Microtraction and Future Hub invested in, the idea that communication could be better, not necessarily. So Termite as a name is just a brand name, right? What makes the company what it is today is that idea of powering communication across Africa for the African, right? Not a Europe company or a US company, coming into Africa to help to come make money from the market. No, but Africans building for Africans and supporting African businesses. That's really helping them to succeed. And so far, we've really done it for the likes of Cheaper Cash, Team Up, Paystack, Piggyverse, and a bunch of other companies. And we're helping these companies succeed, basically, right, and meet their milestones, using our communication stack.
Amazing. Yeah. So after the YC, you had to do like hard reset, rebuild the platform and everything, and you need to start customer acquisition conversation again. How was it like? Did the brand YC, did that help you in advancing your go-to-market strategy faster? Did that influence
Don't
you
let
acquiring
anybody
new
deceive
customers?
you. Don't let anybody deceive you. YC doesn't do anything like that for you, right? Right. Even with the brand name, the hype of YC is just after, it's just doing your demo day. After demo day, right, everything is good. Have you check that, do a check, right, and check all the YC companies that have left YC? How many of them do you really, 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 really hear about so much like that? You don't really hear so much, right? Not that they are not doing amazing stuff, they are doing, but my point is that if you really want to stay relevant, right, in the industry, right, even for the ones that are doing very well, right, if you want to stay relevant, they are is the founders that are pushing it, not YC, right? YC is just there to create, to help you, look at your platform very well, look at the whole thing and say, are you in the right direction, or do you need like a hard research? So WISE is like a place to make the hard decisions, right? Do you need to really shut down this company and start again, right? Are you really, So their money is to help you figure out a lot of problems, right? And like really revamp it. A lot of companies switch their names even at YC. For me, I just decided not to switch the name really. But a lot of companies shut down everything, right? They shut down the name, shut down the company, shut down everything, the platform. They just do like total resets, right? Basically, but I was like, do I need to do this research or should I just change what we are doing the platform itself, right? And that's what I basically did, just build a platform that could do what we're pitching. And so in terms of acquiring customers, right? I already had contacts with from my consulting days. I had contacts with certain people, so some of them were able to help me get first customers, right? So also the YC network too is also so you could work with alumni companies, but it's not automatic, right? You need to also pitch value to these companies. So I pitched some YC founders. Some did not really on board at that time. They later came back in the future, but at that time they really didn't answer. But some took a fly, and started using the platform and even helped us to build what it is right now, giving us feedback and things like that. So on and on. So the way the platform works now, because we focus on developers, right? These developers are decision makers, CTOs, and all of that of this company. So if you work for Schoolable, he would pitch you to CredPal, and if he works for CredPal will pitch you to his guy in Paystack. If Paystack's guy asks for it, if he works for them, they'll pitch you to Bankley. If Bankley's work for you, Bankley will pitch you to share again. So the dev network is very small, and they all know each other, right? So they're able to pitch you, right? So a lot of our growth was just organic, right? Developers pitching us to other developers, right? That this platform works for their problem, and you guys better use them, and that's how we scale. Yeah.
So the essence is value. I mean, you just have to effectively communicate your value, and that's
Yeah,
what people want, irrespective of the program or the accelerator program you've
it
gone to.
doesn't
I mean,
matter.
it
It
doesn't
doesn't
matter.
matter.
And like you said, I mean, you even
If your
pitched it to
platform
some
is very
alumni.
terrible, yeah, if your platform is very bad, if it cannot do what it's saying you to do, people will leave. Even your batchmates will dump your platform, right? So it's not automatic. It's not the YC brand at all. It's
Yeah,
just what
you
you're
need to
offering.
make sure you even deliver on the experience, on the promise of your product. That's what
Exactly.
keeps people coming back. Because
Yeah.
right now, if the guys at Paystar, for example, have like a terrible experience, they
Yeah.
wouldn't pitch it to the other guys.
They
You
would definitely not. That's
All
Yeah.
right. Yeah. So let's talk about Aidi.africa. I mean, I think this is a platform where you also make investments in startups. Can you tell us about that and what
Yeah.
led to
So
that? Yeah.
Yeah, so basically, ID really works in partnership with Termii, right? So ID does a lot of stuff that ID does is really partnership with Termii. A lot of startups on ID, they all become customers at Termii, basically. So they work closely, right? But the whole point of ID was that Termii was not the platform for what ID is doing, right? Some founders like to do serial entrepreneurship, right? It's not me, right? I'm purely focused on Termite. But the sole reason why ID started was because as a founder, I went through a lot of, I went through some tough times, right? And I was like, I don't want other founders to go through that same issue, right? So I went through a lot of things. I really did not get advice at the early stage. So there was a lot of wrong decisions, right? Because the advice I couldn't get, right? And, at that time, I think right now is when investors are all over. As at 2015, 16, investors were very limited in the tech space. So, and even we didn't even have much of tech law and things like that, basically, right? So a lot of things that opportunities you have now, many founders did not have at that time, right? So I wanted to really make a solve that. So rather than just giving money, give those advice. So I didn't really start as an investment platform. Right? It started more like an advisory platform, right? So founders came to me asking questions, how much allocation should I give to my co-founder? How do I get a co-founder? How do I, sign a deal with this investor? Can you help me review this contract and stuff like that, right? Those are the kind of things that I was doing. So I was doing it as a support for some of founders that I know, right? And it started getting much. People started reaching to me on LinkedIn and all of that. I was like, this thing is getting so much, right? And these founders, some of them, if you don't answer them, they end up making wrong decisions, right? And I realized that these founders only need someone to talk to. So I said, okay, you know what? Let me build something around this thing. Let me create a platform and have somebody manage it that can really attend to these guys, you know. And so I did it. I pitched it to my wife, right, and a couple of other people, and you know, and they are the ones really running it at this time. So I don't really do anything, to be honest, at ID. I'm just more like, if they call me to come and maybe talk to a founder, that's when I do, right. But personally, I really don't do much, right. So we started that, and I started putting. I now realized that aside talking to these companies, some of them still need some money, right? So I started putting my own 1K, 2K, and that 1K turned to 10K. You know, the evaluation started increasing. So I think my first success was, and the first company I invested in first of all was Dash in Ghana. I'm sure you heard about their issue in Ghana, but they are doing very fine. The guy is very is aggressive, right? So that was the first investment, right? And I invested very early. It was very, it was just starting, right? So I was like one of the first angels, right, in Dash, right? So that deal was doing fine. Then I think I did a deal with PayHippo at that time, and PayHippo, I think they are currently doing very well, right? So those deals work. PayHippo got into YC. I was like, this thing seems to be working, right? So I then invested in a couple of other companies, you know, on and on. And, you know, so I was just doing it 1K, 2K, and, you know, and it was working. And as my own salary was going. So most of the deals we did early was like a joint investment between I and my wife, right, in those companies. And she's the one running ID, not me. And so we did it together in those companies, and they end up doing fine. And you know, the rest is history. We built a platform around it. So rather than investing directly, rather than being an investment platform, we built like a startup support platform. So if you go on the platform, you notice that it's more like a platform. So this startup come on board. We partnered with the likes of Brex, Mercury, AWS, you know, IBM. So they get free credits, free perks. If they then we have like a list of angels they can talk to. So if they want to have office hours, they can book office hours with any of these angels. And these angels sit with them, talk through their business plans. We have community meetings. So although we've invested in 14, 15 companies, around 16 now, but then we have over 100 founders in our community, and it's very active. They're always talking about their problems. They're always supporting each other. So that was the whole idea of idea. And right now, you know, it's doing pretty well.
Great. And I mean that's interesting. So how do you get connected to most of these funders? Like how do you source those deals? Is it by intro? Do they reach out directly on the platform?
Um,
Or how does it work? For
so
those that would like to connect with you.
I usually tell people that I'm embedded in the heart of the ecosystem, but nobody really knows me, right? So much. What that means is that I see every single company that is coming. I don't need to explain to you how. So any company that start up today, you know, in the African continent, I know that company, right? Because somehow I have to provide them with some kind of service, right? So I see every company, any company that investors are investing right now. I've already seen them like 6 months ago when they started and when they are trying to push. So I see a lot of deals. Let me put it like that. I see a lot of founders, and a lot of them come to me actually before they even go to some of these VCs, and I tell them, okay, don't go for that VC, go for that VC, basically, right? So I'm that guy that you don't know in the industry, but I'm quite I know these founders, right? Very in depth. And then I've been able to also build some VC network, right? So a lot of deals also pass through VC. So some of them dump it on my decks first to ask for their opinion, for my own opinion, right? So you know, like I'm more like an operator, a founder operator. So I know what I am my partner. So I have a partner now, anyways, aside my wife, right? Francis Osifo from 54 Gym. So we work together. He's also a general partner at ID, right? So we basically we've gone along. We even during the consulting days we did stuff together, and so we know how to scale companies. We know what the problem is and how they can succeed. So most of these VCs just drop it on our decks. Like, okay, what do you guys think about this? Should we invest? You know, and just have their opinion, and we tell them, okay, this company, I think it could do well, and some of them jump. Sometimes we invest our own, but some we don't invest. We just advise that, okay, I think you should invest in these guys. We are not investing because maybe we don't have enough capital to put down, but I think you guys should go ahead. And some of those deals end up doing fine. So we get deals. Founders come to us actually. We don't go to founders.
All right, amazing. Yeah, so as we round up, is there anything you'd like to talk about? I mean, where do you see Termii in the nearest future? What are the exciting products that you're building? And any other thing you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, so like I said when I started, right, the whole idea, right, at that time when we started was for Termii to be that go-to communications platform, right, for every single, like more like an infrastructure, right, the way you have Flutterwave as an infrastructure in the payment space, that's what Termii wants to be, right, not a messaging platform where you just push messages, We want to be that infrastructure, right? That switch that everybody needs. That's why even you say our product is called Switch. We have some product switch token, like we want to be that switch that people plug into, and everything that they need to do, right, as regards either using messaging channels to engage or verify their customers, right, or authenticate any transactions, right, that it happens on our system, right. So we want to be that platform. We want to really solve the headache for these companies. You'll be shocked how this is a serious problem. Imagine you lesson came on our platform with 0 customers, right. At the time they started, right, they were just starting, and right now they have tons of customers and they've scaled and grown, right. So you could see that if we're not able to help them at that point, you really wonder how they would have scaled that fast, right, basically, right. And so it's really something that is dear to us, that this is real life, right. Helium Health, for example, are pushing messages for patients, doctors. These are real life scenarios. So we see our work as life and death. It's not just making money, right? We need to change our mind as entrepreneurs. It's not just the money. What exactly is the impact to the end user? And for us, we see that each message. That's why we don't even focus on marketing messages. We focus purely on user notifications, right? People that you are talking to, real-time people that are making real-time transactions, financial decisions, health decisions, education decisions. These are the things that matter to us. And if these people don't get their maybe OTP codes or or the notification from their doctor or things like that, right? It can affect them physically, right? Really, it can affect lives. So that's why we're very, very dedicated to it. So Termii is going to scale very soon into many other things, but it's still going to be on this same premise, right, of making communications accessible and very easy and affordable for African businesses.
Absolutely. Thank you, Emmanuel Gbolade, for sharing that. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on Curious K podcast.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
All right, everyone. Thank you for listening to this episode. I believe you've enjoyed it like I did. And let's just get to meet again next week, where I'll be having conversation with, awesome people on the show. And enjoy the rest of your day. See you guys. Bye-bye.